Sticker. Thank you, Jared, for that there.
Jared's been one of my best friends over the past couple of seasons, and Blake, good to see you. I am in a great mood because the NFL playoffs was really compelling this weekend. I thought the memes after last night was just so good.
Which meme was your favorite?
Oh, man, so many of them. Honestly, there were some really dark jokes about the Damar Hamlin fake punt.
I know.
They were so. I was like, really, this man died on the field, and you saw because you like dark humor, Blake. I know
I love dark humor.
I do too. It's hard because when I did stand up for a while, Blake, you hear even darker stuff that doesn't even ever get to the stage. And on Twitter,
that's why I love Dave Chappelle so much.
Right.
You know, like it's like nobody's gonna go there, but so many people are probably thinking it. You know,
yeah. And Chappelle's more offensive than he is dark, but these were like Jeselnik, Anthony Jeselnik level dark.
Like Shane Gillis doing, acting like he was special needs. You
right.
know?
Okay, yeah.
It's so awful. God, but it's so funny, dude. All right, Carter the Power Bryant joining us. We'll get to the NFL here at the end.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to spin it around Jaden Daniels, but I think I'm going with that. Carter, the defensive staff for LSU is completely done here. I don't like saying, hey, what grade do you give them? But what grade do you give them? Not necessarily A, B, C, D, but how are you feeling now that the defensive staff is completely finalized and done now that we sit here with Blake Baker's the DC and all these other great guys that they brought in?
Yeah, this will sound very harsh, but they needed to clean the entire slate and start new. Most of it obviously is on Matt House. You can only do so much as a position coach if your DC is really struggling, Blake. But they needed to first out clean out the slate. And we've been saying that for months, not only on here, but my channel everywhere. And that is a huge bonus, right? I hate it. This drives me insane when people say, well, who are you going to get to replace so-and-so? No, that's not the right question to ask. The most important thing is we need to get this person TF out the building, and they needed to clean house, and that's exactly what they did. Obviously, Blake Baker is a really good hire. That was one of my top 3 candidates. I know it's expensive, but I'm glad that they got that done. But obviously, more recently, the DB coaches is probably the one that raises the eyebrows of most with Corey Raymond coming in. And obviously, Jake Olson having not a whole lot of on-field coaching experience. The one thing I would say, because I heard and I felt some people feel like the Jake Olson hire is a lot like the Robert Steeples hire, right, Blake? Because you're getting an inexperienced guy, a young and up-and-coming coach. The difference between the two of them, and I don't know a whole lot about Jake Olson, but the major difference is Olson has experience with Blake Baker, right?
With safety, which is the position he coached at Missouri.
Exactly. And also
the completely different scenario here.
Right. And also Blake Baker has experience with safeties as well. So that if for some reason Olson struggles, Blake would be able to help out with that.
If Blake Baker has success, Jake Olson is going to have success.
Exactly.
Right. They're mutually tied together on how his defenses work because he's going to play a lot of box safety. He's going to give a lot of different looks. Carter, I've even heard from a Missouri guy that they will put backers and safeties in the same film study.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
like
really
they call it a run game period and a pass game period where the safeties in the run game period go with the backers, and then pass game period, they will go with Corey and the DBs, but Olson's there to be the mediator of what they need to do in between both of it. That is how Baker, kept up with the entire team when he was the DC at Missouri. So I have the D-line backers, and then I have the entire safeties. That's how he had managed it from a team perspective, right? Like for the whole team perspective. If Jake has success, it's because Blake's having success. It's not – Robert Steeples wasn't even in college, man. 2 years before that, he was a high school head coach.
Right. So I feel Olsen is going to do fine, especially with Corey Raymond back there. Last week, Blake, I had a guy whose job it is to scout assistant coaches. His name is Dave Bartu, and he gave his honest, unfiltered thoughts. I sent you a clip of what he had to say about Corey Raymond. Dave has no ties to LSU, and I've known Dave practically my whole media life, so over 10 years. So I trust this guy. And he feels really good about the LSU coaching staff and gave them, for the most part, really good grades on his own grading rubric. So I like what they've done. I think the defense is going to be better. And like you said astutely a minute ago, Blake, 75% to me of the success of the entire defense is going to come down to Blake Baker anyway. So it's
right.
It's going to be so critical that Baker takes this game to another level. And I think that he will. And I think he's going to be fantastic at LSU.
And recruits at a different level. I think there was a reason he was with Blake Baker was with Bo Davis.
I agree. And, I saw a commenter a minute ago before I jumped on here, brought up this video that's made its rounds when Matt House came out. And I did a really deep dive on Matt House, and I shared how much I just, at the time, didn't love it. I feel different about this, okay? Because I've been asked a lot about the defensive coordinator hire, mainly because of the Matt House video a few years ago. I don't know Blake Baker. I don't. But I do like what he's done with the Missouri defense. And the one thing I loved when I went back and I rewatched the Georgia game, watched every snap from Missouri, like they were so physical at the line of scrimmage. They're really, really well-rounded defense. And I'm really looking forward to see what Baker's going to do now with some Louisiana talent over the next couple seasons.
Well, and you've already seen him hear and have glowing reports from a player that he completely turned around.
Yeah.
Damone Clark, right? Yeah. So if it comes out, Carter, that like Blake Baker's not a culture fit or whatever, like how it was with players acting like they did with Matt House, it might be a player problem. It might be a deeper issue because look, in the chaos of chaos under Orgeron, Blake Baker was the shining light to a lot of it. Like people forget Damone Clark was the shine of that season because of the success that he had.
I'm with you.
I agree with you in reference to, I think it's it's a highly graded staff. Carter, I look, I don't know if they're not one of the best staffs in the country from top to bottom.
Yeah, I would agree, especially now that, the best defensive coach of all time is retired, which is a school that you normally play every season. Considering that you took a really good defensive line coach from a team that you'll be competing against in the Southeastern Conference, you took some really good coaches from Missouri, and you get Corey Raymond back, which presents a lot of positive momentum. And also another thing about the Corey Raymond thing is all those players he coached, they're going to sink their teeth more into the program and all that stuff and maybe be mentors to this next young group. That excites me. It really, really, really does. And ultimately, we'll see how it pans out. Now, here's going to be the very critical thing about this whole thing, Blake, is this cupboard is a little bare defensively. There's some really good players on this defense coming back, but you've got to build a 2 deep. And I've said it on here before.
You got 1 deep.
Right. So that's the thing. You're not even at a 1 deep yet that I would consider to be an SEC starting level defense. And the people who should be the most excited about the new defensive staff, Blake, are those true freshmen that have early enrolled.
I agree.
I'm telling you right now, there's never been a more golden opportunity for true freshmen to step in and win jobs. You've got a historically bad defense. You've got some guys from last year's defense who will be coming back, a lot of which didn't play all that well. Now you have an opportunity. If you're Deshaun McBride, if you're Joel Rogers, Shawan Johnson, any of these guys, you've got a golden chance to not just play special teams, but actually get defensive reps early next season.
Yeah, because, Carter, they can't roll back out there and put the senior latent guys out there and it look really bad and not give other guys a look. Like, I know Brian Kelly might not want to play freshmen. I don't know in some areas if he doesn't have a choice. He's going to have to play Don McKinley. Don McKinley walks in right now because out of necessity, regardless how good or bad he is, a lot like Will Campbell and Emory Jones, they don't have a choice. Like they don't have a choice. He's going to have to play. Now, does he start? I don't know. Okay, we got a long way to go to that. But out of necessity, I think in some position, I'm already hearing things about PJ Woodland.
Yeah, Woodland has been
the stuff that he's doing right now is insane.
Yeah, I honestly, every time I've brought up the question, he's been the name that pops up the most. And what makes that even more impressive, Blake, is he's not a Louisiana 3-star. Normally, it's a Louisiana 3-star that gets the most hype. But for me, it's been him. I am shocked how much I've heard about him, Mr. Football in Mississippi. But yeah, I mean, especially in the secondary and at defensive tackle.
He's Stephen Ridley.
There you go, Stephen Rid, the pride of Natchez, baby.
What a pull! What a pull by your boy, Stephen Ridley.
I'm still shocked that Stephen Ridley almost ended Kevin Hart's career.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So you all right? So Kevin Hart raced Stephen Ridley at a party.
I remember this.
Okay.
I remember this. Okay.
I knew Ridley in college. We were in the same, lived in the same duplex, and he always had the biggest personality. And that was just so crazy. I love Stephen Ridley. But yes, hopefully PJ Woodland's the next Mississippi great at LSU.
Carter, let me ask you the tough question or the elephant in the room. It seems as if LSU did have their sights set on some of these guys that entered the portal, Trey Amos included.
Yeah.
They just not take them, or did they miss? Because let me say this. On Amos, I don't think there's anything they could have done. On Des Ricks, they said, not after the way it went down. The Grimsley kid, you got people in Corey Raymond's, who the old school guys that would report all Corey Raymond stuff. You know who I'm talking about? You know exactly who I'm talking about. They said he wanted to go after Grimsley and then missed. So the elephant in the room is, I mean, they had 3 chances with guys that they could add that are talented. What do you make of it?
Yeah, Grimsley's very interesting. Obviously, for those that don't know, he's a 2024 guy, so he's an incoming true freshman. What was that?
I said, yeah.
Yeah, so he gets out of Alabama in LI, and now he's out there, and he's from Florida, and he chose Florida over LSU. I don't know what happened there. You probably know.
The Robinson kid, the DT. Did Brian Kelly put a ceasefire? Like, is there a ceasefire on some of this? Like, don't take guys until the spring. Like, I mean, it's the honest question that you're being asked. I know I'm being asked. Are you not? I mean, am I the only one being asked this question?
I will share this. The Trey Amos thing is, I can confirm that was highly unlikely not going to happen. But the other two, obviously, Des Ricks is someone that I would have been very interested in, because you spent so much time recruiting him last year, and you really couldn't play in Alabama. And their best position group last year in the SEC was corner. Alabama had 2 guys that are going to get drafted, and they never left the field. It was Arnold and, of course, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I still think Des Ricks can play. But, Blake, at this point, you just got to get some DBs. I mean, I understand that they brought in a lot of DBs in this portal class already, but you would like to bring in even more up to this point. So, obviously, finding experienced guys that have proven to play at the Division I Power 5 level, it could be very hard at this point. But, man, it would have been nice to get someone over this past week.
All focus shifts to the offensive side of the ball. When you read today that Tommy Rees is going to the Cleveland Browns, what did you think?
Yeah.
Did you celebrate? How much did you celebrate?
Well, the first thing is he's going to be the tight ends coach. And I heard you mention this earlier, that the tight end coach position was open at LSU. I totally agree with you about when you can get a chance to go to the NFL. you take it, right?
Carter, I talked to an SEC position coach today, on-field position coach. He's getting NFL calls. Nick Saban's not going to be the only big name dude that walks away. I'm telling you. I'm having these conversations right now. College football is so bad. We'll have a discussion during the offseason. I don't want to go there yet. Me and you are going to have it. I'm talking to them. They don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, and Bartu, who works for a lot of these guys, reiterated this same exact thing, and I've heard the same exact thing. There's got to be something done. There just does. It's
so wild because it all hinges on if a dude from a 9-to-5 job gives to Bayou Traditions, because it makes it so much easier when you recruit a kid and say, hey, man, I can promise you this in NIL. That is the recruiting conversation. That is everything that's going on. What can you do for me? What about your facilities? Oh, and by the way, do you have $150,000 on hand? That is the conversation that they're having. Yeah,
and I sometimes veer away from it because then you get quoted. Well, Blake Ruffino says we're behind on NIL. You know how that works, right? We're not.
I mean, how can you say that when look what's happened?
Exactly.
They're not behind. What I'm saying is I don't think that they're organized enough.
I agree,
and I think that's why why you think Austin Thomas's name keeps being brought up.
What's going to happen in college football? This is my big thing. Is we talk so much about the NFLification of the sport with free agency basically every year, with every single player on your roster, unlimited transfers every single year, unlimited amount. One rule that drastically shifted this sport is taking as many kids as you want. Brian Kelly could cut all 85 of the players and bring in 85 kids of high school kids.
He could go Dion. He could go full Dion.
Full Dion. You could just cut it. It's crazy. And where I think you're going to see more NFL type of stuff is staffs, I think, are going to get bigger. I think there's going to be front offices like
Nebraska hired a GM today.
Right.
Memphis hired a GM last week.
You're going to see more people with these kinds of titles, right?
No question.
And that's not what I wanted to happen, because the point of college sports is not cutting people. That's not what this was intended to be, but that's what it's becoming. So, I mean, you're going to see more of it, and that's going to drive people crazy because there's just only so much time in a day and so many different things you could do throughout the course of a day to where you need people to help you organize all this shite. So it's
you want to hear a conspiracy theory? My conspiracy theory?
I need conspiracy music though, but let's hear.
Okay, I'm going to say this, but I do want to get your thoughts on the offensive coordinator. We need to talk a little bit of men's and women's basketball at the end. All right, here's my conspiracy theory. I'm not so sure that ESPN did not leak the Connor Stallion story on purpose. What was Brian Kelly's biggest thing that he talked about when he was asked about the Michigan thing? The radio in the helmet. So they've even gotten to a place where you have programs hiring front offices. Let's call them what they are. Okay, Nebraska literally did it today. And now they're wanting to go radios in the helmet. Who does that?
NFL teams.
So it's not as crazy as a conspiracy, is it? So when I said this exact same thing, I went back today because I had the same conversation with everybody else a year ago today. I literally brought that up, that was coming. Literally said it, episode 8, whatever it was, or 4 or 5, whatever it was. Okay. And literally came out here and said that they're going to go to radios and helmets. I went through the comments. Blake is a conspiracy theorist. There's no way that they're going to make their college teams are going to hire front offices. Here we are, literally a year ago today, damn near. Here we are.
So what do you? Let me ask you this: What do you think ESPN gains from the radio and the helmet thing?
Because I think that they see the NFL rating of the Ravens and whoever getting 31 million views in a
Oh,
game.
sure. Okay, so you think ESPN wants to make college football more like the NFL to boost the overall ratings of the product?
I do, because now they're tied into all the viewership of it.
Right. Okay, that
They're
makes
tied
sense.
into. I mean, Carter, they owe LSU, a year from July, they owe them $64.5 million cash guaranteed for a TV deal. And you know what's even nuts? You know what's even more nuts? We're gonna get back to LSU right after this. You know what's even more nuts?
What's that?
LSU has 85 scholarship players. If you paid each one of those dudes $50,000 a year, that's $4.25 million. All that TV revenue is coming from football. All of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So all I'm saying is you're going to have to convince me that you're not going to give up $4 million. Jim Harbaugh is not as crazy as people think he is. He's crazy, but maybe they should get a little revenue share.
Yeah, and look, that's where it needs to go.
That's
right?
where it's going. All right, very quickly, because we gotta roll. We gotta roll. LSU OC. Think it gets announced this week, and if it's Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, are you pretty thrilled about that, or what do you think? Because we have not spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, I thought it was going to get it announced at least by last week. It didn't shock me, though, because most Brian Kelly hires have taken a little bit longer than most would expect when it comes to someone as important as a coordinator. And I tend to like that approach. I think college teams make very rash decisions when it comes to coaching and coordinators for the sake of recruiting and saving the class and saving face. Perfect example last year is what happened at Mississippi State. They had a very unfortunate thing happen, and they just rolled into a guy that clearly was not ready to be a permanent head coach. So
Mississippi State was tough, but Florida rushed because they thought LSU was hiring Napier.
Right. So I just don't think being first is as important especially with NIL stuff now. I just don't think it's as important as it once was. But yes, I was a little shocked that Sloan's not been announced yet. I think most feel that that's where it's going to go. Now, you also asked me my opinion on this. That is the direction they should go. Blake, I'm not the biggest fan of giving a powerful job like the LSU offensive coordinator job. This is one of the premier jobs in all of college football. I'm not the biggest fan of giving it to someone that is relatively inexperienced at being an offensive coordinator. But this is a completely different scenario. We've seen Joe Sloan call the plays for a game with Cortez Hankton as a co-OC. It went good. Okay, excellent. We've also seen him sit in the same exact chair as the guy that was a Broyles finalist. So he's been around Mike Denbrock. We want the continuity there from last year's offense. And obviously Joe Sloan is recruiting at a level that is truly spectacular with what you said earlier about Bryce Underwood. This is the highest ranked recruit LSU has ever gotten, ever. Now really think about the history of LSU football and recruiting. He's number one. So I think at this point, yes, you would like to have somebody more experienced, but I think Joe Sloan's going to do great, and I think that's the direction that they should go, Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton.
You know what I think is being not talked about enough is the simple nature that Brian Kelly is going to do his due diligence no matter if you like it or not. He's going to talk to other dudes whether you like his speed or you don't. He does not give a shit. And Carter, to be real with you, because of how great the season went offensively and how bad it went defensively, and it was an underperforming type of year because of those standards, they still miss the fine. They're pissed, and LSU fans deserve to be pissed. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how you can't be a fan and not be a little pissed off. Brian Kelly in his own press conference at the end of the year was like, look, we underperformed defensively. He said that. Okay, not me. He did. And I do think that there's something to be said, though, Carter, that if for all the things that's been said about him in the last 2 years, you got to give the man a little bit of credit where, look, man, he's still running a damn strong organization. And look, Is 9-3 your floor? I mean, is it your floor? Because we got to start getting to the conversation of if that's your floor, well, then they're not even scratching the surface on their potential yet.
I agree. I'm with you, Blake. I'm still very high on Brian Kelly moving forward. And I would tell you otherwise if I wasn't. I totally agree with you, Blake. LSU should have won the college football playoff this season, or at least
they were the best team. Carter, they would have been 2019 reincarnated. And you know what it would have done? It would have made Jane Daniels, Joe Burrow all over again. They missed.
Yeah. This was a massive failure. And look, we'll be talking about this until the end of time, right? Obviously, Jaden had one tough game versus Florida State, one tough half versus Florida State, and that was mostly due to drops. So, look, the truth is this was a massive disappointment. We've all lost sleep over it, but that's in the past, right? Now it's time to look towards the future. 2025 and 2026, those classes are going to be spectacular, in particular 2025. And I do think LSU will, over the next 3 seasons, make the college football playoff in at least 2 of them. And that should be your baseline expectation with the 12-team playoff.
I agree. All right. What else? Did I miss anything? Oh, men's and women's basketball. I'll do this segment with you.
God, okay, yeah, go ahead.
They had a chance to be 4-1 in conference. God dog it. God dog it.
Shout out though, Matt McMahon making this team. I didn't think that they would turn it around though. Like, I am shocked at how good
they're 3-2 in conference.
Yeah, because earlier in the season, I wouldn't have thunk it. I thought Matt McMahon was in over his head, but he wasn't. But really quickly on the women's team, big shout out to LSU flipping the entire script here in this last week. I was on the show last week. I was like, watch, they're gonna blow out the next 2 teams, and they did just that on the road versus Alabama, and
against Arkansas,
taking care of business versus Arkansas,
right?
And every single starter went into double figures, right?
Again, in back-to-back games.
It's crazy, and you see the behind the head pass that Angel Reese had. That was a thing of beauty.
Angel's pissed.
I will say this though, okay? I thought it was very interesting. All right. So you saw this clip with Caitlin Clark running off the court.
Oh God.
Okay.
Did you see the Buddha cheese thing that the Buddha cheese, I think's the kid's name?
No, what? No.
Oh God, he was roasting LSU fans like, why y'all give a shit about Caitlin Clark? But anyway,
Booty cheese, that's his name.
Buddha cheese, Buddha.
Who is this?
I don't know, but I got sent it 7 times today.
Is he an LSU fan?
I have no idea. I legitimately have no idea. You'll have to go and see it. I have no idea who this
Booty
kid is.
Cheese? That is just crazy.
Buddha, like the god Buddha, not booty cheese.
Oh, Buddha, like
Buddha. I mean, this isn't an episode of Playboy, Carter. I'm not sending you to what's the porn sites these days. I'm not sending you to Pornhub. Okay, Buddha. I will tell you. Clapcheeks.com. You think that's a website?
Clapcheeks.com. Let me go search real quick. Let me do some investigative journalism. I do have a degree in that. But no, here's my only.
You have a degree in bootycheeks.com?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I have a degree in journalism, and that's what I will use my 2.7 GPA journalism degree on. I will search.
You dirty dog.
The only thing I would say though is if Caitlin Clark, she people are starting to think she pulled a Jermaine Burton here. Okay.
No, you know who she pulled?
Who?
A Jesse Smollett.
Yes, exactly. And so we got the actual replay. I'm just saying, if that was Angel Reese who did that, we wouldn't stop hearing it.
We'd have to lead our shows off with it.
Right. It would be helicopter coming in,
You would
all
have
the
Dave
news
Portnoy and his stupid pizza reviews.
Yes,
Oh,
and everyone would be like, "How can we let our